kind of weird. Welcome to live TV, everybody. Hello. Welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head. My name is Jeff Pearson. I'm your host. We created this show for you because we want everybody with an invisible condition to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that they have a voice, they have a community, and they are not alone. And so, to that end, we are not alone. We have a guest today. I'm so excited for you to meet this guest. Okay. I'm gonna look at one thing real quick. Okay. All right. I just want to make sure I did it right. So our guest today is Anna Zschuppe. I think that's what she said was the pronunciation of her name. I'm so bad at that. So I don't want to be the guy that mispronounces a name, but I think I got that right. So anyway, she's gonna be talking to us about a couple cool things. And in college, she experienced some serious burnout while trying to work five jobs. I've had 2 or 3 at a time. 5? Come on. That's a lot. Plus college classes. Yikes. Anyway, she says she just kept pouring into everybody else's cup while not filling her own. That's not a good thing to do. That'll burn you out. So at age 26, she quit a 6-figure job in corporate America to pursue an entrepreneurial dream. I love that too. Anna is now the CEO and founder of Summer SOULstice, LLC, where she works as a coach to reduce stress and burnout for high achievers and business owners looking to regain balance in their life. In her one-on-one and group coaching, Anna utilizes a holistic approach, which I love, focusing on the mind, body, spirit, wellness connection. So it is going to be awesome. You're going to love her. Here she comes. Welcome, Anna. Good morning.
Hello. Good morning. How are you today?
I am groovy. I am so excited to have you here. And
I'm excited to be here.
This is so cool. I have one crazy question for you just to kick this off before we get to it, because there was 1 year that I had 13 W-2s back in the day. So I understand the lots of working and stuff, literally we started counting them up. We're like, wow, there's 13, and so it was a busy year. And you don't sound like you're any stranger to that. So I want to know, what's the most unusual or craziest job you've ever had?
Unusual or craziest job? Oof. That's a good one. That's a really good question. I feel like, I don't know if it's unusual or if it's crazy. What I will say, I was a soccer coach. That was actually one of my 5 jobs in college. I worked as a soccer coach for U8, U9, U10 girls. The crazy part about it was not only did this organization, they just started as a soccer club. So that it was kind of funny, but not funny. They had like people who were, more recreational players playing against these established clubs and teams. So that part was the crazy part, and figuring out how to actually build these girls up so that they can become, better players and whatnot, and just have confidence as little girls,
Yeah.
But I think also it was just kind of crazy in the sense of, the skill level, in a sense, because there were some girls who like sat there and like picking grass during a game, and then other girls who were really serious. So I was like, how do I like do this, while still being a role model and being able to help them in that sense. So again, not unusual or crazy in a sense, but I would say that was one of the big ones where
nice.
I was like,
I was half expecting you to say you were one of those sign twirlers on the corner or something.
No. To be honest, a lot of my jobs and whatnot were in the academic building. So I was doing like data analyst. I was like a co-author and like helped with publication, like career coach, writing intern, soccer coach.
Oh, man.
So yes.
Well, all of them work together, though. Over the last 25 years, I've had some, man. We're not going to get into mine because we'll be here for an hour. But I've had some crazy stuff too. But it all leads. there's looking back, it's all hindsight's 2020, right? You go, oh,
Yeah.
that's what led
Yeah.
to that. So
Yes.
anyone out there that has questions about reducing stress, this is the person right here. You've got her for an hour. So come on to Facebook, come on to YouTube, comment, ask Anna a question, man. We're here for an hour. I'm sure she'd love to talk to you. So
absolutely.
yeah. So you obviously experienced high stress during your corporate career, right? You did the corporate thing first. Tell us about that.
I did. So after college, I landed a job with Ernst & Young, EY, and I did human resources consulting. So basically that's helping organizations with anything HR, strategy and visions, HR transformations, change and development, training and development, change management, all of this different kind of stuff. But what it required of me was actually traveling out of state every Monday through Thursday. So I was living the hotel life. I was in the airports. I tell people Uber drivers were my best friends. And then living in a hotel was like my second home. So, in that, I really had to learn work-life balance and the things that were important to me and how I could still transfer the things that I loved in my home life into what I was doing as a consultant. So that was in it of itself something to learn, but then also how to set time boundaries with what you were doing for work, because there were often times where people worked until 8, 9 o'clock at night. They would stay in the office late. So it's how do you create some of those boundaries so that you can still have a life? You're not living to work, you're working to live. So it was a very interesting time of my life, right? And just, it was funny when I was doing a lot of the stress and burnout stuff within the context of human resources consulting. Again, I really had to think to myself, okay, what are some of the things I can do to make sure that I'm still living a healthy, happy life outside of just traveling? Because, it did get lonely in a sense of you're kind of living this double life. You don't have community as much aside from your team who is there. So for me, for example, what I had to do was, this is kind of where I call it like, this was Anna's weird, quirky things. But what I would do is, rather than staying at the hotel where everyone stayed, which is like, a typical Marriott and things like that, I would actually get residence inns. So the places that have kitchens, like the townhomes, even if it was a little outside of downtown. But then what I would do is I would actually go grocery shopping. Every Monday evening when I flew in, I went grocery shopping and I came back and I cooked for the week. And I would bring all of my Tupperware on the airplane. I would bring food home with me so that I would have leftovers for the weekend. They say with consulting, you gain like the consulting 15, not like the freshman 15, but like the consulting 15, because of so many fats and sugars and oils that you're consuming when you go out to eat every day. So, that was important for me. And then also creating a workout regimen and routine, like that was really, really important so that I can go into my work day, a little bit more full of energy and excitement for what I had to do. So again, those are just a couple of the things that I learned, but, in and of itself, it was, definitely hit those stress and burnout places, but it taught me, okay, how do I prioritize the things that are important to me and then create and communicate those time boundaries, with my team.
Right. No, that's huge. And I love the cooking thing because I love to cook. And so one of my favorite hotel stays was at a place like that. I think it was Home 2 Suites or something it was called.
Oh yeah.
We were only there for like one night, but it was awesome because we could actually cook. I could actually cook something. It was great. So
it feels like an apartment too. Rather than the hotel just being a bedroom, a bathroom, and a door, it kind of feels like an apartment. You have like a TV, you have a couch, you have a separate bedroom, which for me, that's really important to kind of separate my living space from my sleeping space. So
Yeah.
it was really fun in that sense of being able to kind of feel like I was in an apartment that the company was paying for. So
Right.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and that separates you from working 24/7, right?
yeah,
Because then you're changing your environment, and now I'm home, right?
yeah.
For the night or whatever. Otherwise, because when you're on a work trip like that, you could conceivably work 20 hours a day, because it's like, well, I'm here,
Mhm.
I'm not, I'm outside my norm, and so I'm just gonna go, go, go.
Yeah,
But yeah, when you go back to
yeah,
a place like that, yeah, but that is valuable.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes what people did is that, they would leave the office early and then they would go home, home, right, to their
Yeah.
hotel and work. But for me, again, I like separating where I work from where I actually live in a sense. But
Right.
I guess until COVID, that changed a lot of things in a lot of good ways in a sense. But for me, I was like, okay, I'm going to just work at the office until I'm done. And then once I'm done with work, close my laptop. That's it. I go home to the
Mhm.
hotel, eat food, relax, call mom, dad, friends, whatever it may be, and then prepare for the next day. So, it's those questions you have to think to yourself of what works best for you, because, not the same method works for everyone. Different people
Yeah.
operate in different ways. So it's important to think about, oh, hey, does this work for me versus not? And then just communicate that with your team. And luckily, my teams that I was on several different teams, because you
Yeah.
rotate between projects, but they were actually really, really receptive to it. They're like, oh, yeah, okay, like that makes sense.
Hey,
So
maybe I should do that. Yeah.
they're like, oh, huh,
What?
let me take a couple of tidbits and put it into
Gee.
practice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, hmm
She doesn't seem to be killing herself. I wonder what she's doing. Yeah. Just
yeah, yeah, yeah,
well,
exactly.
I mean, that's huge. There's people that have been working for 30 years that haven't figured that out. So kudos. That's
Yeah.
that
Thank you.
are still killing themselves with the 14-hour days and not figuring it out.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah,
awesome. So
yeah.
how
Again,
does
I
your
learned that hard lesson in college. I learned
what
that hard lesson when I had 5 jobs. I was like, work-life balance is really important to me, and let me
what
actually put that into place. And that's where I got to practice it a little bit, was in the consulting world, because it's a dog eat dog world out there. They will take advantage of your time if you let them. So,
phew, yeah,
mhm.
that's
Yes,
for sure.
yes.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Mhm.
So just to kind of bring this back around to, because not everybody with an invisible condition can do that are out there, and they're in the world, and they're working, and they're traveling, and they're doing all this job stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of them are in a situation where maybe they're not working full time, or that because they can't, or they're on disability, or they're
Mhm.
on some kind of modified schedule like that. But nonetheless, it still can be stressful because they're on that schedule, because there's maybe things going on. Like for me, there was 4 brain surgeries since 2014. That takes its
Right,
toll.
right,
That can take its toll on somebody's mind and body. So
right.
you sometimes have to change that schedule and do this. So how would you apply what you're doing with yourself and with other people in the corporate world to somebody in maybe in that situation? It's a little bit on a little smaller scale.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And this is something I actually worked with somebody on, particularly because she was working part-time. She could only I can't remember the condition that she had specifically, but it was to a point where her like spine was really fused. Like she got into a bad accident that caused some developmental disabilities and
Mm,
whatnot. And she's like, yeah, I mean, I can only have a job that's remote. I can only work, a few hours per week. Like I can't really move that much. I have to actually lie down, because if I get up, like my brain is almost like disconnected. And we
yeah.
had a lot of conversations on this. So what I was telling her is that, when you think about, whatever it is, what kind of job you go into, the kind of life you want to live, those are some of the questions that you have to think for yourself is, what is the kind of job that works best for me and why? What are the things in my life that are really important that I want to instill, and why. So it's this idea of, what is your purpose? What is your why? And how can you carry that out practically in, your calendar, time management, things like that. But once we are able to kind of articulate, like for her, what are some of these boundaries that you have to create? Hey, I can't work past 5 p.m. because my body shuts down. I have to focus on physical therapy. Or, hey, I do have to have a job that has less intense meetings or less computer screen time because, the blue light actually impacts how I show up, right? Or it impacts my eyesight, right? There are so many different things. But again, it's important to think about what those boundaries are and why they're important. Because at the end of the day, boundaries are things that are to protect you. It's kind of like creating this white picket fence around you. And again, it's that idea of once you know what it is and why, again, the why is really important, is just to be able to communicate that and communicate that upfront to people. And there are times where you have to say no to certain opportunities because it's like, this isn't in alignment with what I'm needing. But there are also times if you communicate it upfront, I think oftentimes people struggle with communicating it upfront, whether you have an invisible condition or not. People are afraid to communicate their boundaries because they're afraid what others are going to think, or they're afraid that they're not going to get the opportunity, when in fact, those boundaries are there and they're set so that you can come forward most productively, professionally, and proactively. So the more that you're able to communicate that and the importance of why you're setting some of those things, I think that people will be more receptive to it. And if it's not, then you have to think to yourself, okay, how strong is this boundary? Is it a boundary that I definitely need to have? Can I be flexible? Can I negotiate? Right? Because there are some times when people, especially in a job situation, they're like, okay, I can't do this, but I can offer this for you. Then you have to think for yourself, is that a boundary that I'm willing to meet in the middle? Because that's sometimes that does happen, right? You have to think about your goes, your no-goes, and things that you're indifferent toward, and kind of move forward in that. Again, whether you're applying for a job or even in relationships, again, I think some of these things apply, invisible conditions or not. And then from there, kind of make that decision of, okay, do I want to continue with this? Do I need to look for a new opportunity, etc.? So.
Yeah, totally. No, I love that. And I've got a couple, I was going to bring something up too, but I think I'm going to do it on the other side of the break because we are there already. So we are going to go to, I know, time flies when you're having fun, right? So here we go. So awesome. We are going to go to a commercial break here, and then we'll be back after that. But in the meantime, I want to just kind of throw this out there about, I kind of want to ask you a question about the boundaries. I had kind of a thought that popped into my head about boundaries. So we'll talk about that on the other side of the break, but everybody stick around. We'll see you in a couple minutes.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Greg Russell. I'm the host of TechnologyTuesday.com. You can find us on the Conscious Business TV network every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the latest resources to help you make more money in your business. Join us on E360 TV. Come on.
All right, we are back. Thank you for sticking around, everybody. And I had a question that popped into my head while you were talking about the boundaries stuff, and I wrote it down because memory's the second thing to go, and I forgot the first. Got to write it down.
Absolutely.
So with boundaries, and this is something that I just remember this back when I was a teenager. It's like your parents set those boundaries, right? If they're, or you should set those boundaries for the teenagers, for the kids, because if you don't, it feels really restrictive. But same thing with this, with older, with adults, and with whether you have an invisible condition that's kind of making life a little more interesting or not. Boundaries aren't restrictive. They actually free you, because because if there's like a little baby calf or something, and they're just born or whatever, and they're in this big giant expansive field, they don't know what to do. Or like if you let a 2-year-old just run, no, you gotta, you set the boundaries, and then they can run anywhere they want within those boundaries. And then they're like, oh man, that takes all of it off my brain. I don't have to think. I just go. And the boundaries are already there for me, because, I don't have to wonder if this is somewhere I should be or not, and you got to be strong when you're setting those boundaries. Like if you, and you don't have to be mean about it, but you do have to be strong in setting those, right? Because if you don't, then somebody can take advantage of it and maybe push you beyond a boundary that they might not even know they're doing, but you weren't strong enough to say, hey, whoa, Right. So how does that, do you help people with that kind of thing too? That seems like that'd be a pretty huge step.
Yeah, I do. And again, I think a lot of it comes down to a couple different things, right? So before even figuring out what boundaries are, what they look like, there's a couple of steps before that. One, it's really understanding what your purpose is, right? Because understanding your purpose, whether it's in your job or it's in your life, or it's for yourself or it's for others, knowing your purpose, it's kind of like a mission statement for a company, same kind of thing, but that's going to be your North Star. And by knowing your purpose, that's going to impact all of the decisions, all of your actions, your words, and your thoughts, right? You want to head toward that North Star. So it makes it easier for you to know, hey, this is in alignment with what my purpose is, which is a combination of your values, your passions, your strengths, and then also minimizing some of those tendencies or struggles, right? So by having a clear understanding of that, that's going to make it easier for you to know, hey, this is what's in alignment with me versus not. And then from there, you think about, okay, are there any kind of self-limiting beliefs that might be in the way? Maybe some of those struggles, right? How do we actually minimize those? Because those not only come from external things, right? But more importantly, they come from internal. So if you lack self-confidence, for example, you're not going to be able to put a boundary in place. If you lack self-esteem, you're not going to be able to put a boundary in place. If you people please, you're not going to be able to put a boundary in place. So it's really important to actually find compassion and healing and love in those areas, which I love. Again, I love focusing with my clients on this kind of stuff. What is your purpose? How do we tackle some of these self-limiting beliefs? And then we get to this phase of how do we actually start communicating this stuff and living it out in our day-to-day. So again, that's where the boundaries come into play, where it's important to communicate what your values are, like reflecting and thinking about what your values are, why they're in your life, and then how do you communicate that in a way that's very, what's the word I want to use? Like not aggressive, right? It's very unbiased. It's very neutral language. So how do you use neutral language to communicate your ideas forward? And then it's on the other person to either respect or disrespect the boundary. And if the boundary is respected, great. Disrespected, different story.
Because you don't want it to be emotional, because that brings elements into the conversation that doesn't need to be there. If you can be objective, it's almost like you can sometimes feel like you're being cold, right? You're being like standoffish, but really, if you just like, that's important for just about anybody in any career, like to be able to just the facts, ma'am, right? Or whatever that line from the TV show was, right? When they're just doing the interviews, right? Yeah. It's like, just the facts. That's all I want, you know? And if you just stick to that, then emotion doesn't get involved, and it plays out much differently than if you get upset, you know?
Right.
So
exactly.
Yeah, totally.
And a lot of that same structure in terms of not charging emotion, not charging what you're feeling, that kind of stuff. That's not only important when you're setting boundaries, but then also when you're in conflict. And that's something I focus on a lot with my clients, right? Is how do you actually express some of these things that are on your heart? Because it is important that you do demonstrate and communicate those, just not in a way that's blaming or criticizing the other person. So there's a lot. And again, I think a lot of it comes to, okay, what are my values? How am I actually managing some of these fears, worries, anxieties, these self-limiting beliefs, so that when I come forward in this conversation, I can come forward with a lot of the facts. And you know, what I tell people too, and this is something I focus on within my coaching, it's something called the STEW method. So the situation, the thoughts, emotions, words, and actions. And a lot of times people think that the other person is causing their emotions. But no, it's actually what's happening is that a situation happens, but then a thought or a trigger comes in your mind. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm not good enough, I'm not being liked, I'm not being accepted, whatever. And then you feel an emotion, and then you have a word or action. And again, a situation, no matter what it is, it could be the exact same situation, but two people take it very, very differently. And that's because of the thought patterns that are happening. So if you're able to identify what the thoughts that you're thinking, the emotions that you're feeling, and how to move forward with words or actions, that's going to be a lot better of a conversation than, well, you did this, you did that, this is stupid, this sucks, like all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So again, really important when you're setting boundaries. And like I said, even when you're in conflict too.
Yeah, well, and that totally, I love that. And part of that is, I mean, that goes across the spectrum of everybody, right? Like that could be somebody, like if you're working with somebody that's got a debilitating invisible condition that has trouble going to the doctor's office because they don't feel heard, or somebody that's going to go into this giant meeting with a multi-million-dollar company or whatever. And I mean, I hate to say it doesn't matter, but really it doesn't matter. It's still the same tools. You're still using the same tools. You still want to get your point across without emotion and with clarity, whether you're talking to a doctor about something you're feeling that doesn't feel right, or you're talking about a business deal, so I mean, your spectrum of population that you can help with this is just enormous. I love that.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
So is there a chance you could share with us just like one common technique that you coach your clients to utilize when they're like to move forward in like healing, maybe in a situation, or something like that?
Yeah. So when it comes to healing, one of the things I love to do is using the RAIN methodology. And this RAIN methodology, I mean, it's practiced by, psychologists, therapists, things like that. But the point of it is when you're in a state of you're maybe triggered, there's a lot of emotions, or there are pains or wounds that are happening, it's really important, because what happens is that our brain just kind of goes haywire. We're like, our brain is going crazy. So what we need to do is actually regulate so that we can move forward. We have to be before we can do. So this state of being, this is where I really incorporate the RAIN methodology. So when you're in this state of meditation, right, kind of recognizing, oh, hey, I'm getting really triggered, or hey, I'm just like not having this good emotion, right? Actually getting to a meditative space where you can feel present, you feel safe, you feel comfortable with yourself. So that could literally mean, for example, like sitting cross-legged and just practicing breath, right? And allowing your senses to engage. You're recognizing, that's the R in RAIN. So you're recognizing kind of what's going around you, kind of what you're feeling. And then A is acknowledge or acceptance. So you're acknowledging like, hey, okay, Anna, right now, like what's coming up for me, I'm feeling really tense. I'm feeling really hurt, feeling angry, whatever that means. Allow for that space so that those emotions can be there and feel there. And then the I is investigate. So there are things that are going to keep coming up, because usually if people are mad or angry, there's layers of hurt underneath, right? There's layers, there's different masks. So you're continuing as you're exploring and whatnot to allow those masks to come off. And then N, which is actually the most important one, is nurturing. So as you're starting to feel, hey, I might feel hurt, I might feel angry, I feel stressed, I feel overwhelmed, whatever it may be, now it's actually time to nurture. And there's a lot of different ways in which you can nurture. So for example, one of the ones I do is, this overwhelm or this stress, actually like visualize what it looks like as if it's a character in a movie. And then like literally picture it, what they look like, what they sound like, maybe what they smell like, their height, their, whatever. And then give that picture, give that image just a big hug. Allow yourself to connect with that emotion. And as you connect with that emotion, you'll kind of feel, most of the time, you'll kind of feel this like relax, like, ooh, wait, rather than running away from this or shaming it, I can actually love this negative emotion. Usually our emotions are there because they're trying to tell us something. So once we build that safety, that presence, that love, then you can continue to nurture by saying, words of affirmation. You can even ask yourself, when's the first time I felt really stressed or overwhelmed, or fill in the blank, whatever the emotion is. And from there, continue to unlock things within your subconscious to bring into memory. I've done this several times with people using this RAIN methodology. And I've had people who, they're so stressed that like they couldn't even move, like they had injuries, like they couldn't move their hands, they had brain fog, but then they were able to connect with that emotion. They were even able to track back to where it pinpointed, which is like childhood, like memories from 6-7 years old. Like, I don't know, Anna, I don't know why I just thought of this memory, but I did. And then from there, give it that compassion and love. And when they do that, they're able to come back up more relaxed, less tense, clarity in what direction they need to go through next, and then move forward from there. So again, I love using the RAIN methodology, especially during points of meditation. So recognize, acknowledge / accept, investigate, and then nurture.
That's awesome. I love that. There is some counselors out there that could probably use some of that information. That's because that's amazing. Yeah. I mean, I could see that translating into so many different things. I mean, that's in the business world, yes, but also in the just purely for relationships, that's huge. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Is there a success story that you could tell us about that, from that method that you had from the coaching?
Yeah.
It stands out.
I've had, again, this is one of my favorite things that I do, because you really teach people how to connect with themselves, their mind, their body, and their spirit. It's incredible, the amount of ways in which they can connect. And I had this one person, and he was a gentleman. He was probably in his, late 20s or so. And he was telling me, Anna, like, I've hit 7 figures within what I'm doing for my job, but I feel so meaningless. I don't have purpose. Like, I just feel like I'm this bag floating in the wind. And he felt so stressed because of it. And I was like, okay, like, let's actually start learning how to connect with yourself. And we actually, again, brought him through this meditation. He's very logic oriented, where, his brain is like, do, and he's just thinking and doing, and, what's next? What's the direction? And I told him, hey, we just actually need to get back to a state of balance, and then you can move forward in your direction. So we did this together, where he was actually able to start being with himself. And he's like, he was even saying during this, he's like, I've never have done this before. Like, I've never actually sat still. And what we did during this exercise, and it went for actually a pretty long time in terms of the meditation, but we really explored, like, these places of hurt, actually having compassion and love, like giving hug to these areas. And then he was able to start dreaming, like, his favorite places to go and what's holding him back from getting to that place. Even having a childhood memory pop up of his dad across the dinner table, and he's like, trying to find connection and meaning there. And we got to a place where he became so present with his emotions that he started crying, like audibly crying. He's like, I don't get this. I never cry. What's going on? I was like, that's you getting in touch with your emotions, because you have stonewalled them for so long that you've had logic lead your life, where you actually need to come back and come to this place of emotions, because our emotions are trying to tell us something. So he's like, I'm a guy, I've never cried. I was like, yeah, that's what society tries to tell us. But really, it comes back to, how do we be, right, before we do? And because of that, he felt a lot more connected to himself. He was able to find, community in this sea of loneliness, and actually find purpose in what was next for him. And from there, he decided, like, hey, like, this is in alignment with my purpose. Like, I'm moving to another city in Texas, to Austin, Texas, and all this kind of stuff. So it's, like I said, it's just incredible to see kind of that change in somebody's, from before of, purpose, not any sort of meaning, actually feeling lonely, to actually connecting with his emotions so that he can carry forward in his next decisions, becoming more present with himself, etc. So.
Oh, that's so cool. You probably just did a little happy dance after that one, man. That was
awesome. I was like, yes. I was like, let the tears flow. Let it go. This is awesome. So
that's so cool. I love that, man. That's the kind of story I love to hear, man. That's so cool. And that's the perfect end for a segment too. So we got, I'm telling you, time flies again. Here we go.
I know.
It flew right out the window again. There went another 20 minutes. So we're going to do one more commercial break, and then we're going to come back and wrap all this up. And we're going to talk about how people can connect with you, and how, and then we'll kind of go from there. So we will see you all in a couple of minutes. All right. Here we go. Home stretch, man. Home
Yeah.
stretch. So I want everybody to be able to connect with you and get what they need to meet with you. But first, I have a couple questions that I like to ask everybody.
Yeah.
Because I feel like this is honestly the most, you might have seen it in the coming back from commercial little clip there, but hope is huge in everything. If you don't have hope, you're dead in the water already. So I want to know how you, Anna, find hope.
Yeah. Hope is really big, right? I think it also ties in with faith. And when it comes to hope and faith, especially in times when you're stressed or you're overwhelmed, it's coming back to that state of regulation and being able to connect with yourself first. Because in those times when we feel hopeless, we need to connect with ourselves and give ourselves, the compassion and love that is needed. And when we're able to kind of fill that cup, we'll have that hope restored. And when we do that for ourselves and we do it on a daily, consistent basis, or even in times when we're feeling triggered, finding hope also means finding gratitude in each and everything that you're doing. So, what I love to do at the end of my days, or even at the beginning of my days, is saying, hey, what are some things that I'm really grateful for today? And not just saying, oh, I'm grateful for my family and friends, but what within your specific day, even if it was really small, made an impact on you. Some of those stories and interactions that you've had with people, how can you find fruit from it? And if you are in a state where you're feeling hopeless, going back to your purpose and going back to your why is going to be incredibly important. Because there are so many times in our world where we're distracted by everything, the money, the fame, the job, the to-dos. But again, finding that hope is being reinstilled in your why, being grateful for what your day-to-day brings, and then connecting that with what you're wanting and visualizing for yourself in the future. What does 5 years down the road look like for you? What does it sound? What does it taste like? What does it feel like? Actually picture it. And then what can you do in your day-to-day to start marching toward that?
Nice. Like today,
yes.
right now,
Today.
right? Like day
yes.
to day, because you've only got today, right? So
right.
Promise tomorrow's not promised. So what are you going to do today, right?
Exactly.
So, well, you kind of stole my second question there, but in a good way. Don't worry.
Yes.
But you kind of answered that too. But so I'll ask it a little more specifically. What are you thankful for today? Because my question is generally, what are you thankful for from like with people that I have on here with different conditions and stuff. It's like amidst all the challenges, where do you find how can you be thankful?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So what are you thankful for today?
Yes, I'm thankful for the gift of nature and sunshine. Today, I actually walked outside. Actually, it was right before this call, and was just getting connected back with myself of allowing that sunshine to just kind of pour in and radiate into my body. Because I was like at the beginning of the day, like I was a little bit stressed and anxious about like, oh my gosh, like I have all this stuff to do for my business. What am I going to do? But having that gift to be outside and to connect with nature, connect with my body and be like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. And that for me has just been so transformational. And especially like in today of like, yeah, I have a busy schedule today, but I can do it. I can do it.
Nice.
Yes.
I love it. So what, if there are people out there today who recognize that they need more support in this area of, what, I mean, you covered so much, but if there's people out there that recognize they need what you can offer, what would you tell? What would be the first thing you'd tell them?
Yes. Connect with me, whether it's on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram, wherever, YouTube, wherever. I would love to just have a conversation with you to get to know who you are. Shoot me a DM, shoot me a text, whatever that is, so that we can get connected. And then if you want to learn more and actually book a call or an appointment, you can go to my website, which is www.summersoulstice, SOULSTICE, coach.com. And from there, you'll be able to book a discovery call to where we can have, 60-minute conversation or so about you, your goals, your passions, and how you want to move forward next. And then for any sort of freebies, things like that, I actually have a Facebook group called the Soothing Stress Collective. And we do a lot of these meditations, these guides, workouts, food for thought, events, challenges, all this kind of stuff. So join our Facebook group as well. Again, that's Soothing Stress Collective, so that you can be in the know and get a little bit of a taste of what I do. But I think at the end of the day, I would just love to be able to connect with you and just have a conversation to see, hey, how are you doing and how can I help?
Nice. I love it.
Yes.
That's perfect. Yeah. So is there, what else did you, I'm sure there's stories and there's people that are like, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe what happened with this person that I talked to like 3 months ago or 2 years ago, or what, tell us some more cool stories, man. Cause those are kind of the fun part.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's so many good stories. So I'll actually share one with someone who is in my group coaching program now. So
Nice.
he is someone who came in. This was at a couple months ago. I think we counted, we're like at week 10 or 11, but she came in a couple months ago and she's like, Anna, she's like, Anna, I am so overwhelmed. I don't know what I want to do in my job or my career. I just feel lost. Like, I just feel like I'm overthinking and like my hamster wheel is just like going 10,000 miles a minute. Right. and, and, it was so interesting because during our time together, again, we focus, this is the 3 pillars that I focus on within, whether it's my one-on-one or my group coaching stuff, is clarity, confidence, and commitment. Clarity in who you are and what your purpose is. Confidence by tackling some of those self-limiting beliefs. And then the commitment is how do we actually carry forward healthy habits and routines in the long term. So at this point in our group coaching program, she's probably at about week 2 or 3. And I get a message from her brother, which is how she actually got into my program. It was through a referral. And again, we're focusing a lot on purpose, values, all this kind of stuff. And he's like, Anna, I don't know what you're doing with my sister, but I see the change in her hustle. She went from being super unmotivated and not knowing what kind of job she wanted and really just at a place of a standstill to now she's applying aggressively. She's doing all this stuff. And then within a few weeks, by week 5 of 16 of the program, she became solid in her purpose, because at the beginning, she had no idea. She actually got really overwhelmed when we talked about purpose. She's like, I don't know what my passions are. But we got to this point at week 5 where she's like, I'm solid in my passions. I'm solid in my values. I actually landed a job with a school district doing what I love, which is music teaching. And then from there, she's actually learned how to connect with her body more. So she's like, yeah, I've done meditation, but like, I still feel like I'm overwhelmed. But now she's coming into it where she's actually recognizing really quick, like, oh my gosh, I see how overthinking is ruling my life. I see how inner criticism is ruling my life and how that's spilling into my relationship with her boyfriend of a couple or a few years. And she's told me, like, Anna, I've actually applied that stew method that you were talking about in my conversations with my partner. And now we're having a lot less conflict. So again, she hasn't even completed the program. Like we haven't even gotten to the commitment phase. Like we've only really been focusing on clarity and confidence. But because of that, she's been able to land a job, show up more confidently for herself, create a routine that works for her, and then be able to communicate with her partner, not being, aggressive or super biased or emotionally charged like we were talking about earlier.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? That's like you're like, man, if I could just encapsulate that, do that every time, that would be, that would be so cool.
Yes.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. So if people want to connect with you, like one more time, like what are all the places? We got a couple minutes left, but what are like in the next 60 seconds or so, what would be the best way to connect with Anna?
Best way to connect with me is to go on Facebook or LinkedIn and direct message me. I'd love to just connect with you, see how I can help and serve you. If you want to learn more about me and what I do, you can go to www.summersoulstice, SOULSTICE, coach.com. You'll actually have an opportunity to book a 60-minute free consultation with me if you'd like, so that I can figure out you, your goals, and your passions. And then if you're like, hey, you know what? I just want to check this out, poke around, learn a little bit more. You can also join my Facebook group. It's called the Soothing Stress Collective, where we'll go over meditations, guides, events, challenges that are exclusive to those members who are looking to reduce stress, find connection, and regain balance.
Soothing Stress Collective. Is that what you said?
That's
on
correct.
Facebook.
Yes.
I love that. That's really cool.
Thank you.
We're gonna stick that up there too. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, is that where you find most of the successes on Facebook, or do you hear people reach out more through LinkedIn, or what?
Facebook is the most common,
Yeah.
but there are, like I said, I serve high achievers and business owners too. So people who are in the professional world, I get some of those people as well from there. But Facebook is the main.
That's awesome.
One. Mm-hmm.
I love it. Well, thank you, Anna. I am so glad that we had this chance to talk and to get to know you a little bit better and to get it out there, man. Get it out there that what you're doing, because it's huge and it's so important, and for everybody in every walk of life. So thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And again, if you join the Soothing Stress Collective, another thing I'll mention is you actually get a free download. Like you get a free meditation guide. So that guide that we were just talking about, the RAIN methodology, you'll get that for free through there as well. I
love it. Yeah. Everybody go. I had that posted on there for a minute. So we'll and that's on the show notes. It'll have all that also. So everybody go check those out and go for it. So thank you so much, Anna. Yes. Really appreciate it. It's been wonderful having you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
All right, everybody. We are done, believe it or not. But stick around for the next show, Friday, September 8th. Annie Tolkien is going to be talking about helping how she helps to make college more accessible for those with invisible conditions. It's going to be amazing. She's got an awesome program. You're not going to want to miss it. We will, we'll see you then. It's going to be awesome. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you on Friday.